What follows is an Ishikawa cause investigation of the garbage disposal failure. And as a problem statement, I have selected badger cracks have caused leakage and spousal irritation. Now, initial thoughts on this and looking at some of the general categories and causes are that equipment, it's obviously an equipment failure, but that's really too broad. So we're going to go ahead and eliminate that as an area of investigation. Process, I guess that would be turning the garbage disposal on and off. There's not a lot to go wrong there really. So I think we'll go ahead and eliminate that as a potential cause. People, there could be some human error involved. I think from time to time spoons have been ground up in there and so forth, but to get into this area would be to implicate possibly my lovely wife, and that would not go well for me, so we're going to go ahead and rule out that branch as well. Moving down, management. Well, you can always make the case that management is at fault. So that would be Karen or I, and of course we will not talk about Karen, so this could be me and in some way how I have managed the garbage disposal. The environment. Well, I think that the environment inside the garbage disposal is pretty aggressive, so I think this is an area for investigation. And then materials. It is a crack. It's obviously a material failure of some type. So we'll take a look at the materials and see if we can figure out what caused those cracks to occur. So we're not going to rule out any of these areas. We remodeled the kitchen about 5 years ago, and I put in this Badger 5 garbage disposal, new at that time. And about 2 years ago, we discovered we had a leak. But it wasn't from any of the compression fittings. It was actually through the casing itself. And you can see there's this little blob right here that was leaking through this crack in the housing. And I just put some all-purpose poly seam seal caulking on it. And that solved that particular issue until yesterday when Karen told me that we had another leak. And it probably had been going on for a while. So I examined it, and lo and behold, there is another crack on this side. So I'll be putting some poly seam on that, and when I was examining the unit further, I discovered that there are two other similar cracks on the opposite side. So I'll be doing a poly seam repair. The poly seam seal caulking has been applied to all three of the new cracks. The repair was a failure. I let it dry for almost 24 hours and then turned it on, and it's still dripping. It did solve most of the leak, but still had a little bit of a weep on the side. But I was thinking about it, and I'm a huge yard sale guy, and a year or so ago I had bought this brand new Badger. It's the same model that's in there right now. I gave $10 for this, so with some encouragement from my lovely wife, I will be replacing the garbage disposal today. Here's the thing I like to do. Karen teases me about it all the time, but I put the date on when I actually installed this thing. So 10 years down the road, if she fails, I'll know how irritated I should be. Yeah, there it is. New one's in. It works fine. Well, I figured out why my repair was ineffective. This is the back side of the garbage disposal, and there were two additional cracks, and these I had actually repaired. They probably held okay, but then when I took it apart, I found that there's yet another one. So there's a total of 5, I'll call them vertical cracks on the body of this thing. Very interesting. It took me about 5 minutes to get this apart. There were 4 long steel screws that go through here and attach the top, I guess, to the motor housing here. But looking at this, it was pretty quickly evident to me what may be going on here. I could see all those cracks. There's one right there. There's another. And if you look carefully, you can find them all. There's another back here. It's kind of, I know that's very dark. But over time, I think the ring corrodes, and when it did, the corrosion increased the diameter of this and put a lot of stress into this part, and I believe that's why the cracks occurred. Probably that combined with heating and cooling, putting warm water, warm water, cold water just over time may have caused those things to fatigue. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get that out of there and see if I can have a closer look at that. Well, I guess there's going to be no reuse in this particular unit. I used my cutoff saw to chop this baby in half, make a pretty quick business out of it, and just quickly pried out this part of the ring here with the screwdriver, and sure enough it is just force fit into the plastic housing here. And when I took it apart, there was a pretty good shower of corrosion that came out of it, and it's on the floor and it's here and there. But you can see the outer part of the ring is quite corroded. And so the cracks pretty much center themselves right on where this ring is applied. So my conclusion is that it's most likely the corrosion, rusting of this ring increased its outside diameter and over time put a lot of stress on the plastic. And I think that just between that and heating and cooling of the plastic just caused these cracks to form. So I don't know. I had this thing, I said 5 years, it may have been 7 years. The thing has a 2-year warranty. It cost about 60 bucks. Luckily I had a brand new one on hand to put in, so it really didn't cost me anything to replace. I can't say I'm all that irritated with this, but I did think it was just kind of interesting, and kind of makes me wonder, when you pay the upcharge for the next model up, or you can spend as much as you want for one of these units, you wonder what you're getting in terms of quality of materials. So I think that for an inexpensive lower end unit, it probably performed acceptably and for a reasonable period of time. That's my conclusion. I went back and looked at the new garbage disposal. It's hard to photograph, but it is most certainly a galvanized steel type material. Cause investigation is considered complete at this point, and results are hereby submitted for your comment and approval. Looking into the diagram that we originally discussed, we ruled out the top 3 cause areas, and we went with the bottom 3, all of which were confirmed to varying degrees. The most strong cause is an inadequate material. The galvanized grinder ring really has limited corrosion resistance over time. It probably works well for some time, but over time it will start to oxidize and fail. The environment, I think the thermal cracking is probably an issue. Hot and cold cycles probably contributed to the presence of the cracks. Hard to prove this, but I believe that's a factor. And then management. We'll go ahead and take a hit on this one. I failed to ensure that we had any sort of inspection or replacement schedule for the garbage disposal. So in that regard, I can be blamed for this failure. So the overall conclusion, we're going to go with grinder ring material is less than adequate. Now that's not really actionable. We're not going to cause the manufacturer to redesign the garbage disposal, so we're really not going to do very much about that cause, even though it's probably the most direct. Thermal cycling can't really change the environment. That is just the way you use these things. It's hot and cold. So that's not really going to change. The contributor, Jim Porter, failed to inspect and replace prior to failure. That is considered a management cause, and that is the one actionable cause. So we're going to have to do something to prevent the next failure, because the new garbage disposal is just the same as the old one. And if it fails, I will be held accountable.